Today, we're gonna take a look at some unreleased rare items, deleted NPCs, and updates that were supposed to happen but got scrapped, and even a secret item that you can get today. It's the holiday season, so let's start off with the Santa hood. This is a recently discovered item that was supposed to be released as a reward from 2008's Christmas event. Nobody knows why it was scrapped, but it's theorized that it was to not devalue the very rare and expensive Santa hat. But how do we know any of this? How did I even get pictures of something that never released? It's all thanks to the RuneScape archive project. I've already explained what they do a few times in other videos, but in 2 sentences, they dig through old copies of RuneScape's cache, saved on old computers, to find stuff that Jagex never let us see before, or was never documented before being deleted. If you have an old computer lying around that you played RuneScape on that you haven't played on in a while, give their Discord a look, as you may have some undiscovered game secrets too. For example, another recent cache discovery is this fella. This is the original version of the corporeal beast start core, but was redesigned to the version we have today before it released. But that's not my favorite thing that's been changed about Corp. In old school, its AoE magic attack that looks like this was actually named, well, I'm just gonna say it, Corp Sperm Splash. Mod Ash even confirmed this one to be true, but apparently it was changed sometime in 2020. These days, it's actually pretty rare that Jagex makes a change without telling players, unless it's a hidden one like the one I just showed. But back in the day, they didn't explain much of anything, even for the big changes. Massive updates got about a paragraph of explanation, so there was no chance they'd be making even a sentence for the small things. That's what makes this sign above the Kebab Shop in Polnivnich so mysterious. It actually used to look much different when the city first released in 2005. The original version is actually the word dangerous written in Persian. Nobody knows why it was changed to the version we have today in July of 2007, but perhaps it's because having the word dangerous in a language used nowhere in the game above a kebab shop doesn't really make much sense. Speaking of businesses, let's talk about Dango and his toy store. As you may know, Dango was actually added into the game as an April Fool's joke back in 2004. Players had been badgering Jagex to add horses to the game for years, and they finally decided it was time. So, Dango set up shop in Draenor and started selling horses. However, it turned out the horses Dango sold were actually just toy horses. Regardless, Dango stayed, and was used in future April Fool's events, and also became the guy who could return holiday event items that you misplaced or destroyed. Even so, to many players, he was still the horse guy, especially when he's dressed up like a cowboy. So, when Jagex decided to do a graphical rework of Draenor in 2011, Dango got a bit of an upgrade, and looked even more like a cowboy. But weirdly, just 5 months later, the team decided to update Dango's graphics again. I mean, how much more cowboy could this guy get? Did they get him a real horse? Maybe a lasso? Nope, they turned him into, I don't even know how to describe him. A middle-aged dad at a Renaissance fair? They turned this fun and iconic cowboy into perhaps the most generic medieval design I could ever think of. Even he doesn't look happy about it. Now, Dango isn't the only NPC that's been changed to, in my opinion, look worse. In fact, there's some models in old school right now that I think look worse than their previous versions. You probably know some of the common ones players complain about, like dragons and goblins, and even the Varrock guards before their recent change, but you likely haven't heard of the ones from the Champions Challenge. Completing the Champions Challenge, for those that haven't done it, is a super niche activity that maxed players do when they're bored. Basically, while killing monsters like goblins, lesser demons, and so on, you can get champion scrolls. If you get, let's say, a goblin champion scroll, you can go to the Champions Guild and fight the Goblin champion. Upon defeating a champion, you'd get some XP, an XP lamp, and a little banner would go up on the wall. This may sound super easy, and it is mechanic-wise. The difficult part is that every scroll is extremely rare, and you'd likely never get all of them unless you grinded for them on purpose. There was also no reason to grind them all out, as the Champion's Cape didn't exist until 2017, the rewards you get for completing all of them. I should also mention the XP you'd earn from defeating a champion was virtually nothing. Combine all that with the challenge releasing in 2005, and you have a recipe for, well, something I'd talk about in a video about obscure and forgotten content. So, not all the champions look the same as they used to back in the day, but finding screenshots of them was near impossible due to all of the previous reasons. Luckily, their models were recently found in a cache from back in 2005. It seems like a lot of them were just slightly updated to that weird late RS2 but not quite HD style. This one actually kind of reminds me of like a pro wrestler version of Bodhi. The one I really wanted to show off though was the old Lesser Demon Champion model. If you showed me today's model without context, I would just think it's a regular old Lesser Demon. The old model looks like he bench presses the other champions to warm up. So Jagex, now that making models look more old school is back on the table, any chance we could get this guy back? Or could you at least copy down his workout routine for me? Now, something really cool about these caches is we can also see things from updates or part of updates that never happened. So back in 2004, when Mauritania first released, it was pretty small. Canifis is really all that existed, along with a bit of the swamp to the south. Well, when Mauritania expanded east with the Haunted Woods, it came with a number of new enemies, like feral vampires, leeches, and snails. But it turns out, originally, there was going to be more. This is the Vampiric Hound, who showed up in the cache along with the rest of the Haunted Woods NPCs. The Hound was actually going to be the companion of another unreleased NPC, the Feral Vampire Count. Unlike normal feral vampires, the Count was dressed in all red, wearing what could be an early design of the Dragon Two-Hand Sword and Dragon Plate body. Nobody has any idea what these two were supposed to do, and the Count is so obscure he doesn't even have a wiki page. But it's fun to theorize. My favorite theory I've come up with so far is that he would have been some sort of roaming boss, maybe a Vedion-like situation. Anyway, this batch of content also included an NPC called Mist, or in the code, Vampire Mist. That kind of just sounds like a brand of cologne. I personally think Jagex was going to try and achieve a misty-like weather effect in the woods, but it just didn't look right. Then again, its code name of Vampire Mist sort of throws that theory off a bit. Now, this next one would have changed the one place in RuneScape you probably visit the most, unless you're an Iron Man. Those of you who have been playing for a while might remember when players on the 2007 Scape subreddit were trying to get Jagex to move the game's rooms games to the Grand Exchange. The most popular suggestion was to place them up on the currently inaccessible roof. Players figured it would revive the games, and who wouldn't want to stand on the Grand Exchange roof? That just sounds awesome. Oh my god! The team liked the idea and moved the games to the Grand Exchange, but not on the roof. Sadly, it didn't seem to revive them much either, since the area is empty on pretty much every world. Anyway, I'm getting off track. In the original Grand Exchange concept art, there were these huge ramps that would allow you to actually get onto the roof of the Grand Exchange. It even had a tower in the center, but I can't really figure out why or what it would do. Well, this idea maybe went further than just being random concept art, as this render of it was recently discovered in a game cache. Although it's missing the ramps, I think these spots are slightly wider than the other ones, which is where the ramps would go, but it could be my eyes. I honestly can't tell. In an alternate universe, I bet RuneScape actually got the games room games on top of the Grand Exchange, as I'm pretty sure all trading would be done on the ground floor like it is today, since there's seemingly no clerks up top. but this interesting design ultimately got scrapped as it was deemed too claustrophobic. Speaking of claustrophobia, most of you probably haven't traversed these narrow caves underneath Apatol's temple. You have to enter them during the Monkey Madness quest and Recipe for Disaster, but you have no reason to explore outside of this first room. If you instead ran west, you'd be met with a locked bamboo door, and behind it was a monkey skull. The door used to have a pick lock option, but you would always fail it. Nobody knew what the monkey skull was for, how to get in, and as a result, there was no way to obtain it. Well, it turns out it was likely meant to be part of the Monkey Madness quest, because this key was also found in the cache next to the other assets created for the quest. It also turns out the ancient gorilla Gree was another item in the cache, which presumably would transform you into an ancient gorilla, but we'd never know for sure, or so we thought. In March of 2015, Jagex introduced Old School's achievement diaries. Completing the hard tier of the Western Province's diary would unlock this door, allow you to take the skull, and turn it into a working ancient gorilla Gree. When you equip it on Apatol, you turn into this. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's up with the blue face, but still a cool item. On the right hand side of the screen right now, you can check out more cool lost items, NPCs, and locations in my playlist full of other cache discoveries.